Down on the beautiful Malabar coast of southern India, there's this Christian community whose story goes back, way back. We're talking nearly 2,000 years to the time of the apostles. But here's the thing, a huge historical question has popped up about who they really were at the beginning. And in this explainer, we're going to try and unravel that exact mystery.
All right, so let's get right into it. The big question is this: who were they really? I mean, what was their original identity? Were they tied to the Church of Antioch, way over in the Roman Empire? Or did they belong to the other great power, the Church of the East, which was centered in the Persian Empire?
So this really gets to the heart of it. You've got two totally different traditions. On one side, the East Syriac tradition coming out of the Persian Empire. On the other, the West Syriac from Antioch in the Roman Empire. And they're not just a little different. We're talking different origins, different ways of worship, totally separate leadership, the whole shebang. So, which one got to India first?
Okay, to figure this out, we've got to put on our detective hats. Seriously, we can't just look at how things are today because, well, history got messy and complicated things. We need to go back, way back, and find clues from before all the modern splits and divisions happened.
And here's our first big clue. It's a date, 1665. History is actually super clear on this one. The West Syriac tradition, which is a huge part of the community in Kerala today, only showed up after 1665. And why then? Well, it was a direct result of a rebellion against European colonial powers. So you see, if we're hunting for the original identity, we have to look at everything that happened before that massive turning point in the 1600s.
All right, first up, let's follow the money, or in this case, the ancient paper trail. We're talking about official documents, church records, stuff that lays out in black and white who was in charge of whom.
This timeline is just fantastic because it shows you how this relationship was built, piece by piece, over centuries. Look at this. Back in 410, the Church of the East starts getting organized. Just a few years later, in 424, they basically declare independence from the Roman Western bishops. And then, boom. Fast forward to 780, and you have the head honcho, Patriarch Timothy I, saying, yep, India is one of ours. It's a direct, official connection.
And this quote, this is the legal bombshell right here. Back at that meeting in 424, the Church of the East makes this huge declaration. They say their leader is in charge of Christianity not just in their lands, but also for those beyond it. And historians are all pretty much in agreement. Those beyond it meant places like India. This was their declaration of independence, and it put India right under their umbrella.
So, the paper trail seems to point in one very clear direction. But documents are one thing. What about actual physical proof, stuff you can touch? Well, let's look at our next set of clues, and these are literally carved in stone.
Check this out. All across Kerala, you find these really unique stone crosses. And what's so incredible is the writing carved into them. It's not Latin, it's not Greek, it's Pahlavi. That was the official language of the Sasanian Persian Empire. It's like finding a fingerprint at a crime scene. It's a direct, physical link connecting these Indian Christians to Persia, not Rome. And it wasn't just on crosses. Get this. We have these copper plates from 849. They're basically a legal charter, a deed, giving land and rights to the Christian community. But the coolest part? The signatures of the witnesses. They signed in Pahlavi, Kufic Arabic, and Judeo-Persian. That tells you everything, doesn't it? These weren't isolated people. Their leaders were major players in this huge, Persian-centered world of trade.
Okay, so we've looked at the legal documents, we've looked at the physical clues carved in stone, but now we get to what might be the single most important piece of evidence of all. This is a direct message, a voice from the past, preserved for more than 700 years.
1301. Just a number, right? So, what's so special about this particular year? What happened then that could blow this whole mystery wide open?
Okay, this is it. This is the smoking gun. It comes from something called a colophon, which is basically a little note a scribe writes at the end of a book. And this is from the oldest manuscript we have that was actually written in India. And what does the scribe say? He dates his own work by naming the leader of the Church of the Orient, that's the Church of the East, and his own local boss, the Metropolitan of India. I mean, you can't get any clearer than that. It's a first-hand confession of who they answered to.
All right, so you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. If all the evidence, the documents, the stones, the manuscripts, all points in one direction, then why is there even a debate today? Well, the answer is that history took a dramatic and pretty violent turn. It's a story of a forced identity shift.
It all starts in 1498 when the Portuguese arrive, and that changes everything. By 1599, they held this meeting, the Synod of Diamper, and basically launched a campaign to erase the community's ancient Persian heritage, which they saw as just wrong. Unsurprisingly, this led to a massive revolt in 1653. Now suddenly, these Christians were cut off from their own leaders in Persia. So, desperate, a part of the community looked for help from anywhere they could get it. And that's when a bishop from Antioch shows up in 1665, bringing the West Syriac tradition to India for the very first time.
And this table just lays it out plain and simple. Look at how systematic this was. Before 1599, they answered to the patriarch in Persia. After, a Latin archbishop in Goa. Their ancient liturgy changed. Their own system of laws replaced. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, top-to-bottom dismantling of an identity that had existed for more than 1,000 years.
So, we've followed the trail of clues across centuries. Let's step back, review everything we've found, and deliver the final verdict from our little historical investigation.
When you boil it all down, it rests on 3 huge pillars of proof. 1. The paper trail, ancient church laws that put them under the Church of the East. 2. The physical evidence, that Persian script on their crosses and legal documents. And 3. The manuscript proof, that personal note from 1301 where a scribe flat out says who his boss is. It's a pretty compelling case.
So, based on all the evidence we have from before the colonial era, the legal stuff, the archaeology, the manuscripts, the conclusion is really unavoidable. For more than 1,500 years, the original Christians of India belonged exclusively to the East Syriac tradition. They were part of the great Church of the East.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. This entire 1,000-year-plus history was almost completely erased. It only survived because of a few scattered stones and pages. It really makes you think, right? How much of the history we think we know isn't really the full story of what happened, but just the story of what was lucky enough to survive?